there, welcome to our channel. I'm Vic.
I'm Nick.
And we're Envy Board Gaming. And today we're looking at Oros. This is a game designed by Brent Brinkerhoff and published by AESC Games, AESC Games, something like that. It is for 1 to 4 players. Nick is going to go through how you play, and then we're going to give our review.
Hey everyone, we are set up for a game of Oros here. We currently have the smaller map of this game on display, but it is an advanced variant as far as the setup. There are several in the rulebook that you can go through, or you can just go through the basic setup. Here we have just one of the advanced. There's quite a few, and this is the small side of the board that you can use with a 1 or 2 player game. You can also use it with a 3 and 4 player game if you want a quicker game as well. There is on the other side an advanced or a longer version that will just have more spaces on your board. Here we have the ascension track. In this game, we're playing demigods. We're trying to ascend our leadership right here, and the game's end is going to trigger when somebody reaches the top of that, and that is double-sided as well. This would be the shorter game where you go up to 15. The opposite side has a longer game where you ascend even higher. So you choose which one you're going to play when you set up. So the game will end when somebody reaches the top of that track, and that you'll finish out that current round, and the game will be over, and you'll tally victory points. All right, so let's go over some key concepts of the game. This isn't going to be a full teach by any means. This is just an overview of basically what you're doing in this game. So key concept. In this game, these are tiled. These tiles have different numbers on them. They go 1 to 4. We have no 4s out there right now. However, the only way to create something called a sacred site is to do that on a mountain. So we have no mountains either. These are volcanoes. I should have put them face down so you can see them a little better. They have different values on them that also go up to 4. So in this game, you're shifting lands. They're colliding. They're doing all kinds of things. You're moving people on the board and so forth. So you can, let's say you want to create a 4, because the only way to create a mountain, remember mountains are what you need to create sacred sites, is to collide 2 4s. Well, there are no 4s now. So the way that colliding works is that, let's say you were going to try to push these 3 and shift them up or move them up. So before we talk about actions, let's just get to how's the game going to work? Let's get to some key concepts. So we're going to move these 3 up. What happens is this volcano stays in this area, but these get added. So this one has nothing to collide into, so it's just going to move up at a 2. That one's easy. So this had a 1 and a volcano. This volcano is still going to go with that to the land, but this 1 and 2 is going to become a 3. Simple addition. So we remove both these tiles and we put a 3 here. And that would be colliding. We're going to do the same thing. That volcano will stay. If that one were to have a volcano, it would just get added onto it. It would have another separate volcano. And this would do the same thing, a 3 and a 1. Okay? That would be a collision. So we're just leaving that one out for example. So let's say we had a couple 4s. Or if we just had this 3, let's say that. No volcanoes, no nothing. And we collide here. If it's going up, the tile is going to go right here. You cannot go past the 4. You can create a mountain, but you can't go past the 4. So this is a 7 value. So this is going to still be a 4, and the excess 3 is going to be in a form of a volcano. If we had 2 4s, this is where we can create a mountain. This is the only time in this game, this is important concepts here. The only time you can create a mountain is colliding 2 4s, unless you have an ability, which we can get into. But only time is to collide 2 4s, and now instead of a 4 going there, you'll get a mountain tile. And the mountain tile is the only tile in the game that you can create a sacred site. Sacred sites come in these polyominoes. When you place a sacred site, this one has to be the first floor, the L shape. And then you cannot place another sacred site on a spot where you already have one, but other people could. So they could place their next tile. This would be the level 2, and this would be the level 1, the highest level of the sacred site. When you build that, your character is going to go on top of that. So if you had a character running around, they would go right on top as soon as you build that. And they're considered studying for game purposes. You have 3 of each of those in your supply, 3 of each of these shapes. Okay, that is an action that we'll get into, but that is the only way in the game to create a mountain, is colliding 2 4s. And I said, unless you have an ability, well, on your board, you can see there is one right here that has an ability that lets you collide a 3 and a 4 to create a mountain. That would be the only exception. So now that we got that out of the way, we can go another key concept here. Yes, I'm going to leave. I'll just throw this out here for now, just to have some things back where they were. So another key concept is how this interacts as far as the edges. If I were to shift a row left, this tile would end up over here, and everything else would shift as well. However, if I were to shift a row up, if something were to move, let's say it moved left from here in this row, it would come down here, and all that would move. That would be this moving left or right. If it's on this edge, it goes there. So you can see that that's how that would work if we were to move. Let's say I moved this row right here. This whole circle is going to start going because all the arrows. That's the way that's going to work. So technically, if I were to move collide to collide here, instead of shifting the entire row, I would actually create a 4 here with a 1 volcano because it's not necessarily moved. Okay, let's go over actions to make it make more sense for us. Let me put my people in place. Okay, so we have a board here. I'm going to remove this is how it's going to be set up. I'm going to remove these just to explain actions. Because again, this isn't a complete rules overview. Let's just give you an idea. So you're essentially picking up a worker and putting it on one of these spots that you can do different things. So let's go over these actions. And we also have these, which little bit of knowledge, I guess, to store away. Wisdom and ascend. Ascend is what we mentioned about moving up this track. If you were going to land on somebody in the ascend track, you would just hop over them instead. And wisdom is moving up these tracks. If ever you have in this area right here, if you ever have all of these ascended past a point, you can unlock these workers, which will make your workers worth points, 1, 2, or 3 each, depending on how high you ascend. Also, you'll unlock different points just for going up a certain row, 3 and 7 here. And they also give you different abilities. So let's go over these. Shift, I already went over. You shift all of them in an entire row. They all move. Move is one that where you talk about the colliding. You have to do a run of 3 at first, but as you upgrade, you have more versatility because then you can do a group of 2 and just a 1, and then that ability I mentioned, and again, victory points. Erupt volcanoes, we can go into that. If I were to erupt volcanoes, right now we would either create a 3 or erupt 1. So if I were to erupt this one, we would have 2. First of all, it flows onto itself, so we don't have a choice really in this matter. This would be a 3. However, if this were a 4 and this erupted, I would have a choice. I would have 2 value. I can put a 2 here, 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 or here, or I can go ahead and put a 1 here and 1 here. That's how that works. So erupting volcanoes, you do not have to be present on the volcano with your character. Characters are on the board moving around during the game. We can get into that in a moment. But that's all erupting volcanoes, this action. We'll skip the send or return for now, and journey is moving the characters. So you can go ahead and move them. Different things. Again, it will matter because you cannot move off an island because these people cannot swim. They don't have an ability to. If you were to unlock it farther, you could swim through tiles. But if you were stuck on this island, you would want to collide into it. You would want to move and have it collide and become a larger landmass in order for you to move off the island. So that would be journey. You can move farther the farther you move up this track. Also, going up steps. So if you had somebody's sacred site right here and you were on the tile, it would cost 1 movement to hop up a step. So if it were 3 tall and you wanted to climb, let's say it's 2 tall and you wanted to climb the 2 steps, that would cost 2 actions of movement. Not particularly useful to do that. It would be useful to come down though, because you have to go down. When you build, you go all the way to the top already. So really, you're only going to use that movement to go descend off of that to move somewhere else. Okay. And here's where you can build a sacred site. Now, this is all one action right here, despite how large it is, because it's based on what type of shape did you build. And moving up this, gaining wisdom here just gives you more points in that type of sacred site. Which one did you actually level to? The bottom, second, or the top? So moving up that will give you multiples at the end of the game based upon victory points right there. All right, so let's talk about building a sacred site. If I were to go here and say I want to build a sacred site, One thing before I get into that, this thing's going to fill up. So just as important as where you go is where you leave, because you want free action spots. If you know you want to erupt a volcano next turn, you are going to go ahead and move that off that. On your turn, you're going to actually have 3 actions you can do. So you want to probably plan those out. They give you little markers, so while it's other people's turn, you can go ahead and mark what you plan to do. Those plans could change, but you can go ahead and try to figure out what you want to do. Building a sacred site. So why would you do it in the first place? So if I build a sacred site here, let's say this were a mountain, because you cannot build anywhere but a mountain, and it has to be the first level if there's nothing there. I couldn't have put this on a tile yet because nothing else was there. I would have to have presence there, first of all. I have to be a person there, and it has to be on a mountain. I can then use that action of build one sacred site on that tile if it's a mountain. And right away, my person goes on here, studies, and they're going to get whatever this shows. So in case of the first level, it is going to be a ascend 2 over here and 1 wisdom, just for doing that. If anyone were present there, they would also gain a wisdom just for seeing that happen. They have to be on the sacred site in order for that to happen, though. So if somebody came here, and my little worker here is studying, and somebody arrived on my tile and built, I would see that get built, and I would gain a wisdom for that, which a wisdom, again, is moving up a track. Okay. So that is building a sacred site. So let's talk about this one. Send or return from study. If I were to go there, in the early game, my person would simply go to this spot. It would clear up action spots here that I can have more versatility in my movement. But later in the game, we can also go to spots that we have sacred sites, where we have a sacred site unoccupied. We could place one of those, like a spawn almost, and they are studying. That's how to get more people on the board. There are restrictions to that. You can see that you have to come up here in order to get more than one. So here you can have 3 or less people on the board, and here you can have as many people as you want on the board, moving around and building sacred sites, or just studying, anticipating other people building sacred sites and gaining wisdom from that. Okay, so in the beginning of the game, you're just going to have to go here because, again, you don't have places unlocked. You haven't built that many sacred sites. So with 2 actions, first action putting one there, and then later on when I clear that spot and go there again, I can have a second one there. And per one that I pull off of the board or of the study right here in this area, I will gain a wisdom per each one I pull off. And then these will have to be placed immediately somewhere to tie up spots on the board. But it says that right there to help you out, that you'll gain a wisdom per worker that you pull off of that right there. You're going to play again until your turns are going to be 3 actions per player, and you're going to play until somebody reaches that end, the end of the track, and then you're going to finish out that current round so everyone has equal turns, and then we'll decide the winner. There's not much to the scoring. The scoring is going to be the points you got on Ascension, right there. The points you got from the board itself on your player board. If you reach those 3 and 7 VP spots, you'll get points. Again, that spot where I mentioned that the workers get unlocked, you'll get how many ever times that you unlocked, and whatever you've unlocked in the sacred sites. Add up all those, and then you'll be determined the winner. And that is how you play Oros. Vic and I are going to go back up top and tell you what we think.
All right, and we are back. Thank you so much, Nick, for the overview of how you play.
Mm-hmm.
Often you'll find with our videos, we are just introducing the game rather than like a high-level overview instead of how to play actual, like, action by action. Mm-hmm. But you do go into some good detail.
Decent, yeah.
Yeah. So let's start off with how we felt about the
game flow.
Yes. There it is. Game flow. There's too much text on this page. The game flow of this. So I can start. I backed this game. So just as a history, I backed this game on Kickstarter, I believe, but I could be wrong, but I think it is a Kickstarter. Yeah. I get confused between that and GameFound, but waited a little bit of time for this, but it showed up pretty good, pretty on schedule. I don't think it was too bad. Didn't have any delays to it, but I'll start with the game flow. I found that the game flowed nicely. I don't think that it seems like the turns are really snappy, and the fact that you can pre-plan your actions, assuming that things don't go totally array, because by the time it might get back to you, if you're playing with more than one player or with that Atoma, or with other players, the map does change, because that's what you're doing in this game. You're changing the map, you're erupting volcanoes, you're sliding tiles around, you're colliding tiles. So I think it's good that you can have a chance to plan out your actions, and really where you have empty spaces is going to determine where you're going to be able to do actions anyway. So it's kind of guides the turns that people take. So I don't think there's too much like AP that sets in with the game.
Yeah, I think the mechanics are solid for the game flow, and that the only thing that would be there's some, I guess we'll get into it with randomness,
Hmm.
but there is not much randomness. It's randomness I like. So game flow, I feel overall solid. I'll say it's a neutral to me,
Mm-hmm.
because it can be things you have to adjust. I'm not saying if it's positive or negative, really. So that's why I'm gonna give it a neutral. There's things you're gonna have to adjust on the fly. You can't plan your turn exact, because, like Vika said, the board isn't static. It's always moving. You'll have to adjust your plan often.
Yeah. Downtime, I kind of spoke to that. There is a little bit of downtime because you're not everyone's obviously taking their turn simultaneously, but they seem to go pretty fast, the turns. I don't think they're too bad.
If you're playing with people that know what they're doing, you don't have to like watch them like a hawk. Then you can pre-plan your plans, your game plan, and adjust accordingly and have that ready. If you feel like you have to do an Atoma on your own, then sometimes you can't do that because you're managing another player as
Right.
well, and
Yeah.
another player's turn. You have to look to see what has changed your last turn. So downtime, I would say also a neutral.
Yeah. I think Nick was the authorized Atoma for us. So for me, I can say, oh, yeah, I got to plan my thing, or go on my phone,
This would be a good time to mention that you have to play with an Atoma if you have a two-player game. You can't go without it. You can even do two if you want. So if you're doing two-player, keep that in mind that one person at least will have to manage an Atoma character.
Yeah, and the Atomas are ranging in difficulty. So we've only played with the very friendly one, the water uh, god, demigod, but we haven't played
The other ones, yeah.
any more, and we haven't won against that water guy.
Yeah, he edged me out last game.
Yep, for like 6 points or something, or
Mhm.
five. Mechanics, Nick kind of spoke to that. He thought that these were solid. I think you said that.
Yeah, I feel like I want to get to the next topic when I talk more about mechanics, but
Okay.
I'll say that the first plays weren't that great. I feel like I played three games and it was kind of like, it's kind of middling. And then the last couple plays we had, I felt like it was stronger. As you get more accustomed to the game, it gets more fluid. Your gameplay gets more fluid. You kind of grasp things a little better. What's more optimal, your moves. But I think it's a game that grows on you a little bit. So I'll say that the mechanics of the game, they feel like an abstract mechanic. All the mechanics feel abstracted. It's a different type of game. I've never played quite a game like this.
Hmm.
It's different. It's something about it because you're doing action selection, but it's still an abstract out there. You're moving tiles around. Uh, you know, it's something. It's a very unique game.
Yeah, I would say unique is quite the word for it. And I do agree. There was a little bit of a warm up to it for me, because at first it felt very overwhelming to have to do all the math, the math that goes into it with adding, but then and replacing tiles, because you're constantly changing out tiles, adding volcanoes, and then you're wondering like, can I have that many volcanoes on this tile? And there's a lot of questions of what happens when I add this one to this tile, or wait, I can't shift this row yet because I don't have the ability to move the mountains, and then you sometimes forget that, and you go and plan a turn based on moving a row, and suddenly you can't do that anymore because the map changed, or you just weren't mindful of that mountain there. But there's little quirks that you become accustomed to, I
Yeah,
think is fair to
and
say.
the rule book is good. I think it addresses everything you're gonna come across pretty much.
Yeah, I like that. I think it was laid out really nicely, and the text is nice and big. It's not very small, and there's illustrations as well that kind of help with things. And the way that they explain on the back of it, there's a reference for the Atoma's actions, and that's so helpful because it's all symbolized. So Nick was able to very quickly do the Atoma's turn, and know the first time around was a little bit of a head scratcher for us because we had to lift up the tiles to look, okay, what region, get
Yeah,
familiar with the map of
if it's in
where.
the middle, it's a little more difficult because the regions they cross over in certain spots. So like, is this A or D or
Yeah.
what is this?
But when you get, used to it, it gets a little bit more friendly that way.
Yeah.
So randomness, let's jump to that because I like the mechanics of this game. I have fun sliding tiles together and colliding them and putting little volcanoes. I like the mechanics of the game.
Yeah, I don't think there's any randomness as far as if you play with three or more. The randomness is going to come when you throw the Atoma in, and it can shift entire rows at a whim, and it really messes you up a little bit because you had already planned like this isn't going to
Yeah.
happen, and all of a sudden it does happen. It does. It is going to cost you actions to shift those back to where they need to be for you that you've already planned something. Um,
Right.
so the randomness, I don't think it exists at all as long as you don't play with an Atoma. You know, you're playing with other people. Things are going to happen because it's their turn, but it's not random. They decided that under their own accord. So that's not the definition of random. The random comes in when the Atoma moves, shifts things up two. That's what they do. They shift it up two at times.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
Every time they shift, it's twice. So it could really throw a land piece way off, and you can't even count on the mountain staying where they're at because they can shift mountains, unlike other players where they have to
Right.
upgrade to do that.
And on top of that, the tiles have sides to them. So they start with one that has just land in the middle and water all around. And then you'll notice that 2 and 3 have water on one side, either 2 sides or 3 sides of land to them. So the 2 will have more water than the 3. But that can impact because the way that it was placed down, you're never really going to change the orientation of those tiles once they're out. If you erupt a volcano on it, yeah, you can change the tile because you add that number to it. But you're not going to ever really get to change that orientation. So that could be kind of jarring when you get moved around by an Atoma and you go, what? I'm over here now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, yeah, the mechanics of the worker placement, I forgot to mention that. I like that. I like the action selection. I don't want to call it worker placement, but you're selecting actions, unlocking more workers, sending people to study. I thought that was a great way when you have actions locked up by people and you can throw them out there and then bring them back to get wisdom or drop them on the board.
Mhm.
I think that that's really a good way to get those people off of your board. But then sometimes you want them back. You want to have them back so you can do it again and build up your tracks. I love tracks as well. I really like building and advancing on tracks. So that was another mechanic that I thought was strong that I didn't touch
Yeah,
on.
it's a little seesaw, because you're getting people back. You don't really want them back, but you want the wisdom that they give you. But it ties up your board. It restricts your actions when you do that. But then you want to send them out, which eat up actions, but you'll get rewarded for those actions when you send them back, which again eats up your board again. So it's
Yeah.
a little seesaw back and forth.
And one thing about the mechanics as well that I enjoyed was that when you're building those sacred sites, or the building the monuments, I think it's a
Sacred sites.
sacred site. You can't just keep staying on that tile, building up with your own, and that person doesn't leave, and they're just racking up points. No, you only get one tile to contribute to that monument, and the other you have to wait for other players to have gone there, and then maybe you might want to send someone out to your monument to hang out and watch the other person build something. And
Gain wisdom. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's a cool way of doing it too, because you can, obviously run out of places to be on the board if you've built up all your sacred spots and now you're just kind of idling waiting for everyone else to put down some tiles. It's good that you can be witness to that and gain points from that. That's cool as well. Replayability, I think it's strong because the game changes. Like you don't have to. It's not even a strategy that you can employ each time because it just whatever people decide to collide, and the maps scale from being really small to the other side, which is a large size. So I think there's a lot of room for replayability. I mean, the volcanoes that creates new land tiles, and you can choose to manipulate the board by shifting it around. I mean, to me, it's high replayability. What about you?
I think it's fair. I think it's I'll give it neutral or upper
Mm-hmm.
end of neutral, because you can do different setups. There's two sides of the board. You can do an advanced side, which I don't know if you can even play with two players. I guess you could, but I'm not sure if it's optimal with two
No.
players. In a 3-4 player game, probably you can flip that board over, create a larger land. You can do the short game, you can do a longer game, and then like I said, they have advanced setups for both sides of the map. So I think it's a neutral. It's just a matter of if this will be for you or not, whether or not it's actually replayable. But I think that's what the case with any game.
Yeah. And the scalability, we kind of touched on that. I think it's better with more humans. I like it at 4. I liked it with Andrew and Sam when we played it. I do always enjoy playing games with Nick, but the Atoma being so good at the game, and we were on the most basic one. Uh, I like to just play against him. I don't really like when there's an Atoma added to it, but it's not terrible. I would do it again anytime, but I do like having real humans that are making decisions.
Okay, I think that scaling is good. I
Mhm.
would call it as a positive. I think it worked as good at 2 as it did at 4. So, um, yeah, I have no issues with how it played at 2.
Do you know why they have to have an Atoma for 2? Could you see why, at least? that we
Um,
couldn't just play you and I? Is it just because nothing would ever happen between? Well, I
I think
guess,
it would dull. It'd be too dull.
yeah.
Yeah, nothing, not much would change. You just go back and forth. It's just
Moving
you,
you and then I
and there's
move you.
only two types of sacred sites in that case because it wouldn't be a
Right.
third.
Okay.
So I guess you have to have at least three for the
Enough
three
said.
types because you can't build,
Yeah.
your own twice.
Someone figured it out and determined you couldn't. Table size, I don't think it's too bad at all. One central board in the middle, but the auxiliary pieces, because this had game trays that were really cool for organization, but then they end up, if you don't put them back in the box too, and you have a lot of tiles that you have to keep out to constantly refresh them, so you have to have room for those tile holders and the volcano holders.
Yep, everyone's got their own map.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got
Oh,
the
you're
game
right. I
board,
forgot about that. Yes, and we have our own game
and you
boards
have
with the
two
tracks.
sets of those, so it's a bit
It's
much.
a bit much. Yeah, I wouldn't. I would say it does take a bit of the table up. I don't know what I was thinking. Just one thing. Nope. There's boards for each person. I know that. The theme. Uh, See, to me, I keep hearing this word abstract when people talk about this. To me, it doesn't seem very abstract. There's volcanoes, 3D volcanoes and you're moving like it would move on the surface of the Earth, like a tectonic plate type thing. I feel that. I feel the theme strong, and I'm not a theme person. I don't care too much about themes, but I felt godlike. I did moving around the stuff and erupting volcanoes. What about you?
Yeah, I think the theme for an abstract is good. It tasted it on a theme and made it work. But in the end, it could have been anything. Does this theme work for what you're doing? Absolutely. I think it's a great theme. And theme and abstract, I don't think are mutually exclusive
Oh,
terms.
okay. Sorry.
But no, I can see why people often think that because yeah, because games like chess that have a theme, but you just call them abstract because there's no real theme there. It's just tacked on, and there's no real theme in chess.
Mm-hmm.
But they say there is.
Yeah.
This one has that theme. It has the theme, but what you're doing in the game, it feels like an abstract. You're sliding tiles, and it's just like I don't know. What is this? I mean, the theme is cool, but it's sliding tiles in the end of the game, and it's all it really is. And these little things blow up.
You're a demigod.
These tokens spill onto other things, so you call that lava.
Mm-hmm.
That's lava. But you have those things to represent that. That's what kind of brings it out to. I don't know. It's like hidden. I don't know. I don't know how to say it.
Okay.
It feels weird.
Well, I like the theme. I
Mhm.
think it's cool, and I'm
Yeah.
not a theme person. Table presence so strong to me. I think it looks really cool. The colors are bright. The art is good. I think the art is pretty good. It has an art style to it that maybe not everyone is in love with. Maybe it is a certain style of art. The Right away when you see it, we can talk more about this when we talk about components, but having the game trays to organize and pull out each player's tokens and everything's in a little tray thing, that is great. I think that makes for great table presence when everyone has their own board set up and there's a beautiful color according to their player. Everyone's got a different image on the top, and the track and having those big standees, which I'm not even crazy about the big standees because you can't sometimes see the score. But I think it has a great table presence.
Yeah. We'll just couple them together then. Table presence and components.
Yeah, the components are really good. Chunky meeples, and I got the Kickstarter, so I don't know what will happen with retail versions of this,
Yeah, I
or
don't
I'm
know.
not sure what it's like. Actually, we do because they're cardboard. The track markers are cardboard. You do get we got some of those pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a
So
couple, but it's really not that much. You
no
have the token, you have those pieces for the tracks, like you said.
recessed boards.
Yeah, I
Love
don't know.
that.
I don't know if that's in the game or not. I don't
Yeah.
know what the retail looks
Yeah.
like. It's
Sorry.
hard to mention what we paid upgrade for in this.
But I'll tell you that I really thought the components were strong. I thought that the having a recessed board when you have a track, please just recess the board, because I hate, something happens, you've dropped something and then it messes up your whole track. I like to have that set in there so when you're advancing it. And I really like the overall quality of the tiles of that you were putting out on your just even on the board, but also your sacred site tiles.
Yeah, I like the look of it. I like the art. I like the graphic design, the good bold font on all the backs of all the player mats. I think it's good.
I wanted to check the price I paid. That's why I'm looking. But
Okay, so we'll skip the price for now, and I'll go into setup time. Setup time for this is a negative. You have to set up the board. You have to look at a picture, get out all the tiles. I think this is a stronger negative than most other categories. Setup time is kind of a pain. You're getting the ones, the twos, the threes, the fours, and you're setting them all up in these different shapes. And it is what it is. That's how it's going to be. It's not going to be a preset board. You want to change it all the time. So I don't think there's a way to get around it, and that's just what it is. It's how this game's going to play.
yeah, I don't recall. And off the top here, I should have researched this a bit. I kind of forgot how much I paid for this. So Nick will write at the bottom, but it was about $100, I'm sure. Probably $100 or so.
So let's say it was 100.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hypothetically,
Mm-hmm.
worth it or not?
Yeah,
Think so?
I think so. I like it. I enjoy it. I like the simplicity of the game, but that there's more depth to it than just a basic light. Like I didn't pay $100 for an extremely lightweight game. That's good because there is more depth to it, more decision making, and you're interacting with other players, so you're not just doing like your own solo game. I'm gonna have Nick write the price underneath here of exactly how much I paid, but assuming I paid about 100, I felt good about it. I don't buy that many games though.
So if I was to say, would I pay $100 having played it? No, I wouldn't pay $100 for this game. And I don't know what it is. Retail, I'm sure it's less than 100. If it's not, then I would not recommend it. Maybe 60. I would say 60 for the deluxe version is how much I would reasonably pay, just because of how much I'm going to play it, how much I want to play it. It's a unique game that I don't think is going to come to the table all that often, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm at $60 is a fair price for this game. If anyone's asking 100, I think that's a bit much for me, even at the deluxe level.
Yeah, and I really hope I'm not wrong about that because that's just what they're selling it on AESC games for the collector's edition,
Okay,
which
so
I'm
you're getting
pretty
the
sure.
deluxe at least.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is that. Though I'm really bad at my
Yeah.
Kickstarter pledges. I just do
That's probably what
things
it is.
and I forget about them, and then they show up one day.
Game length.
Yes, game length. I thought it was good. They say on the box that it is supposed to be 30 minutes per player. With the teach, I would say that it probably takes an hour per player. Is that right? No, it wasn't 4 hours when we played with Andrew and Sam. I wish we timed it.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
It was probably 3 hours with them, but again, I taught it.
Yeah.
And there's questions when you do that,
Mm-hmm.
but it was fairly smooth. It's not we're getting to that right now, a complex game. I don't think it's that complex, but things don't make you're not playing optimally when you first start. I don't think you are. You're maybe taking longer. And then there's that thing where it feels like the game at certain points kind of goes through the motions. You're basically you're pushing together. You're trying to do sacred site. Is all I see myself doing really is what's the quickest way I can get a sacred site? What's the quickest way I can do that? And it's just repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. What's the quickest way I can do that? And sometimes it lands, really quick. I get a mountain right next to me, and I just hop on and build it. There's not that much build up to that. It's fairly easy at times, and then there's other times where the things are spread apart, and you have to think of clever ways, which is more interesting to me.
Yeah.
So I would like to play a larger map with 4. It would take longer, but it would also make you think more about how, because this game already you're trying to think, but it's all about how can I do a sacred site now.
Yeah, and how, because Nick's right, where you are forced to do actions where you have open spots, and sometimes you're just doing that action just to move a guy off so that you could put another person on the spot where they were. I've caught myself doing that, where I was like, I don't really want to shift a tile, but I will just to get this guy off of this space. So there were times that happened, and then there were times, like boom, you've got all these sacred sites. Probably when we play with Andrew and Sam, you've got all these sacred sites out on the small map, and you can just travel around, especially if you've boosted that and you're already watching other sacreds be built because you're waiting for your turn. So chances are you'll be around for witnessing or having knowledge of a sacred being built. So you're going to get wisdom. So then, you just move up your track, and all of a sudden you're journeying around the map. And with a small map and a lot of players, you're certainly going to be, and it's Nick is right, it's one track. It's like one thing that you're trying to do ultimately. Yeah. So you're not getting points for other stuff that you're doing, just that. Well, you're getting points for the players that you pull out. You get at the end of the game, but you're not doing anything else in this game like if you're trying to get points, you're just trying to get out on sacreds.
Sacreds and get your wisdom. Send people, get them back. Get wisdom because that goes up. That's a multiplier as well. But yeah, pretty much everything's centered around. Even those are centered around your sacreds.
Yeah.
You know, getting that mostly is all centered around that.
So was it fun?
I'm gonna say overall yes. There are more turns that are obviously more gratifying than others. Some turns feel wasted. Some feel like you got a lot done, but it's a lot of the same stuff too. You know, when you feel productive, it's because you built the sacred. When you don't, it's because you didn't. So I think overall, it can be fun. The more you play it, the more it clicks for you. The first few times might not feel fun. It might feel like, you know, you're kind of just chugging along, you know, trying to keep pace, trying to like the game, and it's not really. It's just mechanical and not really. I don't know. Maybe your thoughts aren't all into it. You're not using your head enough, and then when you start using your head more, it feels more fun. When it's like, oh man, I can plan it this way. That's more engaging to me of when I'm thinking of different things versus just kind of like I don't know, going through emotion in a mechanical beast of the game.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I thought the game was fun. I enjoy putting out the little volcanoes and changing the tiles out and thinking of ways to put them together. And I like the feel of the components, and I like putting stuff out. So I think it's score time.
There you go.
I'm giving it an 8.5. I really like it. And maybe, you know, there's a bit of commitment there. I don't know if I paid 100. It feels wrong. I think that that's not true, but maybe I did. It's a big game in terms of the size that it takes up. I wanted to mention that in your shelf. It is a little bit of a hefty box there. But I love this game. I think it's fun. I enjoy it. And I would play anytime you wanted to. And if you wanted to try a bigger map with other players, I would do it too. And I don't think it's too difficult to teach. I think once, yeah, I guess the bad thing is I agree with Nick that you're going to end up being stronger. Like we're going to be playing more optimally than anyone we teach it to.
At this point, yeah, having played it a few more times, even after our first couple, right now, at this stage, right now, the way I play this game, I think I would, yeah, I'm going to beat a first-time player right now. But before my last two plays, maybe not.
Yeah.
You know? If I feel like you're good at the first two plays or something, you're not that great. And then all of a sudden things, for whatever reason, maybe this is just my experience, clicked a lot easier. Now I'm really playing optimally. My score on this one, I'm going to give it an even 8. So it has its ups and downs to me. And I think overall, it's a solid game. I enjoy it. So I'm going to score it an 8.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this review. We hope you enjoyed our video. If you did, please click the like, thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel for more great reviews. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.